So the day that I'm making this video, it's UFC 184, 185? I think it's 184, actually. And as a lot of you guys know, I used to do a little bit of, you know, MMA here and there. I was never anything good. I don't think I could beat anybody's ass, blah, 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 blah. That was actually a wide assumption when I mentioned that in another video. They're like, oh, of course he mentions that. He trained a little bit. He thinks he can beat everybody's ass. And that's not true at all. I'm very average. I'm not very strong. I'm not ripped. I'm not anything. I'm not very highly skilled either, but it was just something that I did. It was a hobby. Now, with that said, at this UFC, there's going to be two women in the main event. It would be like Ronda Rousey and Kat Zingano. Now, I don't expect you guys to know exactly who they are, whatever, but Ronda Rousey is basically like the best women's fighter in the whole fucking world. Like, she's just a fucking freak of nature, just dominates everybody. She's a fucking beast. Now, women's MMA, at least in the UFC, is still pretty new. It has not been around very long. Now, I just wanted to mention these things because there are a couple people out there that are like, oh, women's MMA is boring. I don't want to watch two women beat each other up, blah, 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 blah. And there's some people that are, you know, that just respect their opinions, and then other people are just straight fucking sexist with it. Now, by the general consensus, yeah, normally men are like bigger and stronger and all this other shit. But here's a story from when I did some training. Back when I did jujitsu, there was this woman. Her name was Rachel. She was actually a black belt in Brazilian jiu-jitsu. Now, the way that the camp was, I was there for a couple months, okay? And I believe that she came over from another camp to come and train over here with us. Now, before that, I would just spar with other people. There were other black belts and things like that. Now, I wasn't a black belt. I was just a blue belt. Just a couple years of doing this stuff. This woman shows up, and I know that she's a black belt. They mentioned her. They introduced her to everybody. They were like, okay, this is Rachel. She's a black belt, and she's coming from so-and-so, this place, that, and the other. Now, Jason, I would like you to train with her. Now, back when we did this training, I don't know how the fuck they did it over in their camp. It was definitely different how they fucking did it over in our camp, because when we first started training, immediately we started grappling, and before I knew it, I was tossed onto my head and flipped over and bent backwards like a fucking pretzel. Rachel beat my ass! Now, to give you a profile, I would say that Rachel, she was shorter than me. I'm only 5'9". She was smaller than me, I would say by a few inches, a couple inches. She was probably like 5'5", 5'6". I did not expect somebody at that size, no matter how much experience that they had, to actually do that to me. I thought, yeah, maybe she would be able to get some nice slick submissions in, all this other shit. I didn't, on the other hand, think that she could just sit there and lift me up and hip toss me. She just picked me up and casually just threw me out like a fucking teddy bear in spring cleaning. And the worst part about this whole thing is that everybody watched me get absolutely just bent the fuck backwards. I did not know that my spine could bend that way. There was a submission that she got on me that was called like a twister or some shit, and apparently it's like really fucking hard to do. Until she did it to me and I ended up tasting my own asshole. Now, if you think learning how to do the twister is going to enhance your sex life, you have another thing coming, because no, even if you could taste your own ass, it does not feel good. Honestly, when she first did it to me, it didn't feel too bad, and then it started getting worse and worse and worse. It kind of had that effect when you start cracking your back or your neck or something. You start cracking your back just a little bit and you're like, oh yeah, that feels so fucking good. And then you reach that one point and then you're like, okay, now it hurts. Well, I had that 1 second where it was like, yes, this feels amazing. And then very quickly it turned into, ow. It was like she didn't even care about my well-being. It's like she didn't even attempt to look into my eyes to know that I'm a human being before she did what she did to me. Her eyes went from this beautiful hazel color when I first shook her hand to this glazed over murderous look in her eyes that was just, it was sexy. I'm gonna be honest. But it's not sexy when you can somehow manage to sit on your own face. If you don't think that's possible, I'll get a hold of her because I have her number. I haven't talked to her in a couple years because she still scares the fuck out of me. Then you can get in the ring as I watch you perform self-analingus.